physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome back, and remember, if you want to sponsor any of our programs, just call the numbers which will be appearing on the screen later, and it's 020-866-7000. Call a friend to join us on this conversation on TV XYZ, Ago TV, Volta 1 TV, Power FM, Class FM, Accra FM, and Wezo TV. And so I am privileged, and we are of course privileged to engage the former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, this morning. I seem to be in a hurry to talk to you. Say, you are welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Good to see you as usual.
Yes, today you look very smart. White looks good on you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, you resumed your tour of the Bono region, I think, on Monday. We've been around, we've been to Brekum, we've been to several other constituencies. And prior to that, the impression was created that you cut short your tour of the Bono region because you dashed to Accra. The impression was created that you didn't receive the warm response as expected, and so you ran away. You've come back, we've been around for the first 3 days. How has it been?
I wonder, I think it's the chairman of the MPP who made that assertion, and definitely he was playing politics. We came into Bono region from Bono East in the 9th, and we did only one program, and that was late at night at 1 a.m. And we did it in the Sunyani West constituency. We got there at 1 a.m. You can't believe that the chiefs of Odumase, number 1 and number 2, were sitting at 1 a.m. and waiting for us. And the number of people who received us at that time of the 9th is bigger than anything I've ever seen since I started campaigning in Sunyani West since 2008. It was a very good crowd, you know, enthusiastic young people, and they received us very well late in the night. And then the next morning, you know, what happened with the exhibition of the register happened, and then we left. So it had absolutely nothing to do. You've been coming around with us, you see the reception
I've
that
seen
we've had.
many of those who come around when you tour the various constituencies. But, you know, as we speak, the MPP has 11 of the 12 constituencies in this particular region. And the impression has been created by your opponents that this is the stronghold of the NPP. We saw the numbers at Brekum, and we've seen similar ones as we went around the region. For you, what does this signify, especially after all the things you saw in 2008, then as a vice presidential candidate, and 2012 when you came in as a full party leader and a flag bearer for the NDC. 2016, you came here and you lost. And 2020, you are back, and there's so much around you.
You know, this used to be one region before, Bono East, Bono and Ahafo. There was a Bronga Ahafo region. It is considered one of the swing regions of this country. MPP have won it, we have won it several times. But, I mean, there's no need to be complacent with this region. After they divided it, most of the seats that we have are in the Bono East. And of course, we have one seat here in Bono. But it appears that the MPP is getting very complacent. I mean, they just assume that it is their stronghold, and so they're going to win it. They're going to come in for a very big surprise. We're going to pick up several seats here in Bono.
As we speak, I just want to help our viewers to appreciate what we are talking about. These are the numbers and the reaction of the numbers which came out to welcome you. But you can continue the conversation on how you see the response so far.
The response has been very good. And like I was saying, the MPP has become very complacent. I mean, they just assume that a place is their stronghold, and so they're going to win it. But things are changing. I mean, people are frustrated with their time in governance. I mean, people, you know, cannot realize the potential of their lives, and especially the young people. When it was announced I was coming to Brekum, they invited people to come out. And I was surprised that, the kind of reception we got in Brekum, much bigger than we've ever had in all the elections that I have participated in. And I can see that something is changing. I mean, you go to most of the constituencies, and the main litany that runs through is disappointment. People are disappointed with the 4 years of NPP administration. People are disappointed with the 4 years of Nana Akufo-Addo's administration, and they are prepared to make a change.
Now, chiefs, for example, have been particularly grateful for some development projects you initiated, and the concerns that cut through many of the places we visited, the many debates you held, was that some of them have been abandoned, and they were also coming out along with tall list of new ones they wanted you to add on. How do you see the reaction, especially among the traditional authorities in this particular region?
In infrastructure, the Nana Addo administration's record is very poor. Very, very poor. They have virtually nothing to show, in this region that they have achieved in terms of providing the critical social infrastructure to the people. And yet, everything that we started, they have either abandoned, or, continued in a very slow fashion. Roads have been abandoned. It's just 2-3 months to the elections. Wherever you go, you see that they've gotten some bulldozer or some grader to go and create a semblance like they are about to start to do the road. Clinics have been abandoned. Schools have been abandoned. I mean, just so many things. Electrification projects that we were doing, extending electricity to the communities, they've all come to a standstill. And that's why I say the MPP is being very complacent, and they'll pay a very high price for it here in Bono. We'll snatch several of those seats from them because people are frustrated.
That's still politics, because for us who follow you, we see them as a situation where NPP would come to this region to sell their record, and of course you are also on the ground selling yours. But what I want us to do now is for us to listen to some of the chiefs, because then we can hear the exact concerns they have raised, and then we'll continue the conversation. So let's listen to some of them we've put together.
And now I see you Katia. Emamu. Na say am fast that man nanka ye bonia for. Eti pa mo agya nyina e de aseda mam. E kwai enkania ensuo e school. Ni nyina aye NDC aban. Na say na wa bedru ha. Yama wa kwaba. Ya da wase so ne da. Efri say nya wa nka na ye wa atachem. Na so Uhu Yamabo, FIM, your Fasia, Dr. Opini, Eddie Wachi, Amania Yahui, and a Yahui. Etipa Majanina, Adi Asedaka, Sia Emau. If you say, now I ask you, I'm Bobby Bray. Nasanya wa, Nkaya Husa, Yabampire, sir, Nka 2020, Nka. Abotre Kasiano, Eddie Asho. Namanka Newaye, Abroso, Amanka, and Moyam Atsa Atrakre, Mia Husay, and this Yabai, Ayabiama. Babiamai, and a Pamajanina. Na Unkunidia, make a share, and can show. Eti Wabansa. Obaya President Wagana Memuha. Mese Enkunidiano Yadi Ahinkana show. Na banka no. Mese Otiho.
Domadia no kwasem ye yubonua ya ni ato atwene. Doma kwana ka efiri ahantrasia besi asunsu number 2 badanyanha. Ana efiri ahantrasia koshia drobufo no kwasem wa dawroma and Dr. Punya dawroma ni ewura god esubontra dawroma mutu kwani nyina so ye mo adwene senka mo begusu kotare sadi amo aya ni amonam so baaye ena fofi antoata no wadware abamo enti eka ho mukọ wiye nanu ada eni na watwi po na grader ebe fa akwani so mokọ wie ehu grader bia hada ndi yewura yesraw se wonsa ka akonwa ya bo modena se efiri tafura besini kosi ya ne drobufo ya so mututu ya kosi ba bia ha jo ya nkura wo ho nyina nka yanya kwampapa afaso mokọ ani nyina aka ho nti yesra yewura se wonya akwanya ya bo modena se wo be kae ni enti ayada wase kase o ka se o di free senior high school be den ebeba na mo mba de beba no e so di kan sisi school adan papa bi ka na sem kan mani ji yiye se ansa na obaye nkukọ no e se open nkukọ buo na hu se mi nkukọ buo we nkukọ du ne baba kom na mo firiti pra kokọ ton nkukọ du kogu ha buo ben mu ne babeda wo bo modene wo ye no yeti yeye wo ma do maman bi do maman so nsa ka ye no ye wura guardians bontra da roma danyam no de bae said ye be ya ye nso ye nwoma sua no ye benya so mfa so.
So those were testimonies by many of the traditional authorities. In fact, at some of the places, they made you Nkoswo Hene, that's a development chief. But wherever we went, when I listened, some words came into mind. Testimony, integrity, and incompetence. I bring incompetence here because in 2016, that was the tag on you. And 4 years on, it looks like Ghanaians are thinking through and they are changing their minds. How do you feel when traditional authorities shower some of these concerns and, of course, acknowledgement of what you have done on you?
It's interesting. For those of us who have studied social psychology, you know the Gobelian theory of, repeating something over and over again, and people come to accept it as the truth. In 2016, that's the strategy MPP just took. They put an undeserved tag of incompetence and just kept repeating it over and over and over and over again. So it's gotten to stick in people's mind that we were incompetent. But, I mean, you can see for yourselves. These are chiefs who are very excited, to see me because they knew the work that we had done. And often, traditional knowledge is very good. I was impressed with that chief because I've been trying. I've been trying to frame that thing that you need to put in the facilities to make a policy meaningful, and that's why we're building the schools. And he put it so succinctly. He says, if you want to rear chickens, you don't go and buy the chickens first. You build a hen coop, and then you go and buy the chickens. And I mean, it was a very good way of putting it. But this particular thing they were talking about, it was the Cocoa Roads program. We realized that most of the roads in the cocoa growing regions were in a very poor shape. And so we decided that anytime we did the cocoa syndication loan, we'll take a part of it and fix the roads. And so every year we're taking $150 million. And we gave most of those roads on contract. And contractors were working. This particular road he's talking about goes, I think this is from Danyame and goes through Nsesreso or something. It continues and comes out at Drobo. Okay. But it's halted, at a certain point. And the rest of the road has been abandoned and is in a very bad state. When the new government came, they said they were going to audit and find out what had happened. They even made allegations that the roads did not exist. And it was like, they meant that we're paying contractors for no work done. 4 years after, they've not been able to indict anybody or show any road that was paid for, that was not done. Suddenly, they realized the importance of these roads. And 2-3 months to an election, they are asking contractors to go back and show presence on the roads. Everywhere I've gone, you find a bulldozer or something, but it's a little too late. I mean, you cannot deceive the people with those kinds of, gimmicks. People are discerning now.
As we went round, and I believe that maybe the videos that will be shown to reflect how you were received will show pictures of you distributing something. Information went out that you were sharing money. Did that come to your notice?
Yeah. I think James, our campaign spokesperson,
James
responded to it. Yeah, but I mean, it's politics as usual. I mean, with that kind of crowd, how would you be sharing money? Who are you going to give and who are you not going to give? It was face masks. We have this branded face masks with John Mahama 2020 on it, and we have some in the car. And because of this coronavirus, disease, when we go, we take some along, and I give them out to the people who come around. And so I was distributing face masks to them. I mean, it's very characteristic of the MPP to try and twist something like that and make it look like something.
We'll look at the People's Manifesto and specific issues you have been highlighting with reference to the Bono region. But today, the Electoral Commission is opening a one-day voter registration exercise. It's 67 days to the elections. How do you react to the processes so far and with what is happening today?
This particular Electoral Commission does things in a very, strange way. I mean, these are not some of the processes we're used to. Yes, there was a court ruling on continuous registration, and anybody at any time is supposed to be able to go to the EC office and register. But the law says that 60 days before the election, even if you'll be allowed to register, but you will not be able to take part in that particular exercise. Now we've done the exhibition of the register. There have been so many problems, with the register. And on top of that, you say you're going to open the register again and do another mass registration in all your district offices. It makes it very difficult for us to understand what they're doing. If anybody hasn't registered and has come, they should go any day to any district office and say, look, I was outside the country, I've come, I want to register. Okay, so what of those who come tomorrow? Are you going to do another one day? Or those who come the day after, are you going to do another one day? And so they handle things in a very strange manner. The register goes up one day it's come down, someday names are missing. And I was shocked when the EC commissioner said they have found the missing names. And right now it's only 7,000 they can't find. Only 7,000. Every single person is important. And so not even one person should be missing. And so you cannot say, I mean, it's a height of incompetence to say only 7,000 names cannot be found. It doesn't show any seriousness and diligence in what this Electoral Commission is doing.
Now, the commissioner has recently spoken. She's assuring the nation that she believes in God, she's a Christian, she's not going to rig the elections. Let's give it to her. But the register and the sanctity of it is what will determine the credibility of the elections. I remember when you addressed the nation, you proposed to the Electoral Commission that after correcting all the anomalies, there should be another exhibition to make sure that all the concerns you raised had been addressed. Is it an issue you are still going to pursue?
I'm prepared to give her the benefit of the doubt that she has no malicious intention to rig the election. But the degree of efficiency of giving us a credible voters register is what we're talking about. I'm not talking about whether she has an evil intention or what. I know she's a Christian, and I'm sure that in her own mind, she knows that she must do the right thing. But the point is, the steps that they are taking, I mean, are so inefficient and incompetent that we don't know exactly what is happening. We've had electoral commissions, we've gone through registration exercise. This is the most disorderly and chaotic registration that we've ever seen. And I'm worried about the election day, because those new BVRs they've brought, we don't know whether they work. People are going to try and verify, and they're going to be rejected, but their names are going to be on the register, and it's going to create a lot of chaos. They brought a new system where the presiding officer can override both the fingerprints and the facial recognition and do a manual. Meanwhile, my thought was that, and what they said was that this new system is more efficient and is going to reduce the number of manual verifications that we do. It seems likely that it's rather going to increase it, because we've not tested it, we've not done test runs, and so I'm afraid for the chaos that will occur on election day.
Well, I also want our viewers to appreciate the fact that because of our location, the area is quite windy, and so when we speak, the microphones may pick the noise around. In case that happens, just bear with us, but I'm sure we are audible enough and you can understand the conversation at this stage. At Nkran Kwanta yesterday, Nkran Kwanta or whatever.
Nkran
Kwanta yesterday in the Doma West district or constituency. In your commentary, I noticed that you made reference to a certain gentleman who got injured during the voter registration exercise. I want us to listen to the concern you have, and I am raising this specifically because we are talking about this 2020 elections you have already referenced as something that will determine the fate of this country, and therefore the processes must always be as clean as possible. Listen to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
The life I say, a branch here kama, Sheniatono, a manual 70. Ya year registration ewo on my ha several times. If we rollings abreso, and maybe ye betwaba na ye voters register. Ye ine pie etoto register na kama. She NC. And so afei de register keke yebetro na nipa hweden kwa anya hankwa banda ye de sekan wo bi eku no kwa we ko register ye se won kan ye ho wonya Ghana ni abra nkruma ekukuru Ghana si ho na ye wa bonofo ye wa santifo ye nuanom voter region for ye was stream for fancy for and crime for near yina ne wogana ha na ye yina e nipa baako so am say aban de eba ye kan ye mbom etete ye bom na yenim say NDC aban de ye ene gina ho say yebe pam obia akabom enti minim say nyame adom NDC beba na sama Ghana obia aye baako.
Listen to the former president at Nkran Kwanta in the Doma West constituency, and you understood the concerns he raised. But we have received a lot of complaints. People wondering if the NDC is strong enough to ensure that the EC will work to the test of time and make sure the register is as credible as we all want. The impression I get is that we are doing a lot of talk, and people on the ground, your supporters, are becoming demoralized, and they don't know if on election day these things won't happen again.
Well, let's separate the two things. The work with the EC is different. And I mean, when it comes to the EC and registration, I mean, violence is not the way to go. I mean, are we supposed to attack EC offices and vandalize them or what? I mean, you use all the legitimate and legal processes, which is what we're doing. Election day security is another thing. It's supposed to be the security services that maintain law and order. Unfortunately, we have a government that not only has vigilante groups, but has also embedded some of these vigilante groups in the security services. That is what is likely to be the flashpoint. But like I've said, NDC is not going to follow them down that road. We're not going to set up vigilante groups to fight them. We believe that the people are empowered enough to be able to protect their votes. And so we're going to call on people's power, that everybody makes sure that nobody comes and disrupts the election in your polling station. We're not going to take guns and shoot at people and maim them and kill them. I mean, it's the MPP that has developed a trademark for doing that. And it's a character of the leader. I mean, in all his time in politics, all die be die, he actually thrives on tension and all that kind of thing. And it has shown in his administration as president. You know, there's always tension. I mean, things that we've been used to doing as political parties for a long time, you know, under Rawlings, under Kufuor, under Mills, under me, that have gone, I mean, normally, you know, without any real aggravation. I mean, anything little under this particular government is so full of tension and violence, you know. And so we will depend on the people, you know, to protect the ballot. And I believe that God is on our side, and we will win the election.
Okay, so this is an interview with the former president, John Dramani Mahama, who is also NDC's 2020 candidate. And as we always do, when he goes around the country, we get the opportunity to speak to him, to speak to specific issues. The NDC manifesto, what they are selling to the people, his assessment of the response he has received. And so I want at this stage, we come back to why you are in the Bono region. You've gone around, you've been speaking to the people around the country, and I must say that many of them appear to be very confident in the fact that you delivered and they can put their trust in you. But let's look at how traditional authorities spoke, and then now the concerns they are raising with reference to their demands. You spoke about cashew, you spoke about abandoned projects, you talked about education, health, and so on. Let's start with cashew. I want you to use this platform to explain into detail why the people should buy into what is in your manifesto.
You know, the Bono, what has been missing, the Bono East, Bono and Ahafo regions are like the breadbasket of Ghana. I mean, they have such a diversity of crops, you know, and agricultural production, you know, is done in a manner that creates a lot of abundance. The mistake we've made all the while is that we invest in production. We give farmers tractors, we give them fertilizers, you know, we give them the inputs with which they can produce more. What has been missing in our whole agricultural strategy is the agribusiness and agro-processing part. I always give the example of the cassava factory in Kintampo, which the MP invested in and which I had the privilege of commissioning. He has his own cassava farm, big one, and he buys cassava from all the farmers around him. And then he processes it into cassava starch, and then he supplies to the breweries, and then he supplies some to, there are some factories in Accra that make biscuits, and they put some cassava flour in it. His demand is 45 tons. He's able to provide only 25 tons of the cassava daily. And so the agribusiness, agro-processing part is what we are missing. Now, what happens with cashew is that there are foreign buyers who come and buy the cashew cheap. As I'm speaking, they're buying cashew at 2 cedis per kilo. But at the time that we left office, cashew was being purchased at 8 cedis per kilo. Today it's 2 cedis per kilo. So there's no incentive for the farmers to even continue to maintain the cashew farms. And so we need to do something urgently about it. Now what these buyers do is they ship the cashew outside to Asia, and then they go and process it there. And then they put produce of their countries, even though the cashew originates from Ghana, and then they ship the cashew to Europe and US and sell it at a much higher value. And so they are getting the benefits of the value addition, and most of the money is going to them, and they pay our farmers just a pittance. And so what I said is we're going to regulate the cashew trade. We're going to set up a board like we have for cocoa to regulate that particular trade, because it's valuable and we can make a lot of foreign exchange from it. And so we'll give guaranteed prices to the farmers. But most importantly, we'll put in the processing capacity here so that nobody comes and takes the cashew to his country and goes and processes. We will do the value addition here, and then we'll export it and make sure that the dollars that they gain come rather into our country, and we're able to give the farmer a better price. It's not only cashew. There's pepper. They grow pepper, a lot of pepper. They grow tomatoes, a lot of tomatoes, but there's no tomato processing capacity. I'm not talking about huge factories all the time. Sometimes these are mini processing plants that you build a small shed and you can have a processing, agro-processing business there.
And there'll be guaranteed market for the product?
Yes, definitely. I mean, look at the amount of tomato we eat in this country. We import a lot of it from the processed tomato from China and Italy. The fresh tomato, we import a lot of it from Burkina Faso. And so it's obvious that there's a market. We don't even need to export.
The reason why I was asking the question is that most of the time, the glut issue becomes the concern that drives most farmers away from what they earn their daily lives from.
It becomes a glut because we have no processing capacity. And tomato is a very perishable crop. And so if you start harvesting here, and they start harvesting in Techiman, and they start harvesting somewhere, then the tomatoes become too much in the system, and so the price collapses. And there are even examples of people committing suicide because they go and borrow money to be able to produce the tomato. And so when they see they are running at a loss, I mean, there are times where people have, taking their own lives. And so we need to put in that processing capacity, so that we're able to absorb the excess, process it into tomato paste. You can even vacuum pack tomatoes and put it in your fridge, and later take it out, open the vacuum, and just put water on it, and it becomes ready to eat again.
Let's move to another issue. You talked about the development or the creation of a gold board. What is that? Because many people look at that Galamsey small-scale mining and the issues that have surrounded the anti-Galamsey task force as we speak.
You see, you have the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and then you have the Minerals Commission. All of them are mainly policy bodies and also, in a way, regulatory bodies. But there is no implementational body that oversees the mining sector directly. And so our thinking is that we'll set up a separate entity called the Gold Board, which will not only see to the implementation of regulations, but also assist the miners in terms of giving them, assistance to be able to do mining properly. We have all these young graduates coming out of University of Mines and Technology at Takwa. They have, knowledge of mining safety, how to do mining in a modern way, how to make sure that you protect the environment. And yet, a lot of these are coming out and they can't find jobs to do. The Gold Board is going to employ them. We're going to restructure the whole mining concession area and make sure that we identify exactly who the small-scale miner is. We're going to have medium-scale miners and large-scale miners. The mistake we had was we had small-scale miners and large-scale miners. There was none in between. And so small-scale miners were confused with medium-scale miners because now they use earth-moving equipment. At first, these Galamsey people were artisanal miners, that's what we call them, and they used pickaxe and shovels. Now we're using excavators. That is no more artisanal mining. So we'll have small, medium, and large. And all these will be regulated properly. We'll create mining districts. And in every mining district, there'll be an office of the Gold Board that will supervise mining within the district and will employ people who have the knowledge. And for every concession, we will give them vehicles, motorcycles, to be able to make sure that the mining is done in a safe way so that our young people don't go into pits that are not properly secured and then it collapses and kills them. And to make sure at the same time that any mining that they do, we're able to purchase the gold off them in order that instead of allowing people to just come and purchase the gold and take it away, and they get the benefit of the higher price when they take it out to Dubai and other places, we also want a cut of that money. You know that in 2018, it was said that UAE made $15 billion from gold coming from Africa. And the top 3 countries were Guinea, Ghana, and Tanzania. And so 15 billion, we want a share of that 15 billion. The pittance that is paid for the gold dust that they buy from our people and take out, we want a share of that 15 billion. And so if we supervise it properly, a lot of that value addition will remain here. We want to put small minting facilities so that we can mint that gold into bullion, refine it, and also ship it. Well, we're going to get the Bank of Ghana involved in this in terms of, keeping some gold as our reserves. If you go to America, 70% of their international reserves, their reserves are held in gold. Many countries hold gold as a part of their reserves because it creates stability for your currency. And Ghana, having been the Gold Coast, we are blessed with gold from the coast to the extreme north of our country. It is a blessing from God. Why would we restrict its production and let foreigners dominate it rather than letting our own people be able to mine it and get the benefit of it?
There's always the perception that the multinational companies have a way of tying your hands and pushing you to give them that space to operate and leave out your indigents. Is this something you are going to change?
Well, before, we did not have the technology and we did not have the knowledge of how to do mining. But I can tell you today, there are at least between 5 to 10, big mining subcontractors that are wholly owned by Ghanaians and can do mining. There are some of the mining companies where all the mining and everything is done by Ghanaian companies. The foreign company only receives the ore and, you know, processes it and takes the gold out.
So you are referencing the subcontractors.
So what I'm saying is there are Ghanaian companies that, if given a concession, they can run a first-class mine like the foreign companies are doing. Before, we didn't have that technology. We sold State Gold Mining Company for how much? Was it $5 million or something? And they took the State Gold Mining Company. There was a big tailing mountain that had been processed from Gordon Gaggisberg's time. They just brought machines, washed it, because we could, at that time, the technology could take out only 55% of the gold. So they just brought machines, washed it, used the chemical process, took out the extra gold, sold it, used that to pay us for the whole mine, and today that is a first-class mine in Western region.
I think Christia, you are making reference to.
There are several. I don't want to mention the particular companies and all that, you know, but I'm just saying that we have the capacity to do this ourselves and to make a lot of money for ourselves. You know, and when I talk, I'm not talking about the big mining companies. We have contracts with them we cannot breach. But when you take, you know, the other mining sector that is done by small-scale holders and others, it comes to about 40 to 50% of the total gold that is exported. And that's a huge value product, you know, and so government must have an interest in it and must take control of that sector. So
that's obviously good news for all those in the industry, the local mining industry. And if you are listening to us, why not just get the NDC People's Manifesto, read the details, and see where you have to put your weight. Now, Suma is one of the areas we visited. The chief spoke eloquently about almost the key promises the NDC made in the 2020 manifesto. But there's an area where he talked about the plight of the indigents, and then in this case, he's talking about the benefit to those under the free primary health care you mentioned or talked about. There are some who hold the perception that the NDC promised a one-time premium for the NHIS. You couldn't fulfill it. So how are you able to effectively implement this free primary healthcare policy you are introducing?
Let me explain the free primary healthcare policy. It's not going to take over the NHIS. It's going to complement the NHIS. And I've been explaining this as I go along. Since the NHIS was introduced by President Kufuor in 2007, to date, it gives coverage to only 40% of our population. 60% of our population don't have access, either because they don't have access to health facilities or they don't have the money to be able to, you know, possess health insurance cards. Now, if you want to achieve the policy of universal health for all, then you must kick in something extra in order that you give coverage to those other people. It's not like my idea. I would say, when I was president, we noticed that the health insurance was, you know, having challenges, especially with payments, you know, in order that we were able to, because it had expanded exponentially. And so we set up a committee, a review committee, to review the operation of the health insurance and then also give us recommendations going forward, you know, how to expand coverage to bring more Ghanaians in. And the committee came out with a report, very interesting report, and said that for any insurance policy, there's a finite life to it, depending on the sources of funding. And so if we are to capture the rest of Ghanaians in, the health insurance is not going to be able to go that length to achieve, say, 90-something% of Ghanaians covered. And so we need to bring in another policy to complement it that will ensure that we're able to cover the rest of the
source of funding.
Yes. I mean, with the current source of funding, there's a limit to which the health insurance can go. And so we need to kick in another policy in order that we're able to reach the rest of Ghanaians. And that policy that was recommended by that review committee is the free primary health care.
Oh, okay.
That's where it came from. It came when I was president. They gave us the report in September or October, you know, a few months before we left office. But it had always been in my mind. And so when we're writing the manifesto, we got that report back and we looked at it. And it is a very good idea. It will expand coverage. It will let more people have access to health care. And it must go hand in hand with providing facilities. And that's why we're fast-tracking the building of CHIPS compounds. I mean, in our time in office, in 4 years, we built almost 1,600 CHIPS compounds all over the country so that people can have, access. It will mean that we must be more efficient in providing funding. And it will be better to provide funding in advance so that when people get to the point of care, they are able to access health care. Aside from that, it will still be based on an ID of sorts. And the preferred ID would be the Ghana card, because that is proof of citizenship. And so if anybody has his Ghana card and he goes to a CHIPS compound, they will treat him. And it will cover the basic illnesses that our people normally go to a hospital with. So malaria, typhoid, diarrheal diseases, and so on and so forth.
Now, roads is central to the concerns raised when we went round. Many of them we have now realized have been abandoned. And there's a new list that has always been coming out. Town roads and then arterial roads that they've talked about. Even some talked about cocoa roads. How are you going to address these? Would they fall under the big push, as you mentioned earlier?
Definitely. Roads are a major part of the big push.
But that looks tall.
They are a major part of the big push. What has happened is that, Ghana is a country that has a good road network. There are roads leading to everywhere. And we have been tackling those roads drip, 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 drip. We never really get a handle on making our roads better. And so a big component of the big push is going to be roads. If you look at any country that has advanced and become what we aspire to be, it is because they opened up the country and made it possible for people and goods to move easily across the length and breadth of their country. That is what puts a country on the road to becoming an advanced country. And so we need to open up our country. You saw some of the roads we went on. I mean, if people sit in Accra and don't know that people in Ghana live in places like this, where a short journey that should take you 20 minutes takes you 2 hours because the road is so poor, And our road system structure for management of roads is a good one. We have the Department of Highways, the Highway Authority, we have the Department of Urban Roads, and we have the feeder roads. And so we have structured it properly. We have the highways, which are the main principal highways: Accra, Kumasi, Accra, Takoradi, Accra, Cape Coast, Kumasi, Wa. Those are the highways. And so let's tackle the highways in a major way. Most of the highways are not in too bad a shape, and we can easily upgrade them. What we need to do is to dualize some of them that have major traffic, like Accra, Cape Coast, Takoradi, Accra, Aflao, Accra, Kumasi. These have the heaviest traffic in this country, and they have the heaviest incidence of accidents in the country. So let's dualize those ones. The others, let's bring them up to a state. Even though they'll be single carriage, we can put asphaltic concrete on them so that they last longer than the current bituminous surfacing. Then after that, we look at the urban roads within the cities and open up new avenues so that we ease the congestion, put interchanges over different places so that we take out a lot of the bottlenecks. That is the next assignment. And then also look at the feeder roads. Some of them, you can bring them to a state where you just put quota on it, put bituminous surfacing on it, and you know that for 5 years, that road is going to hold. From time to time, you must patch the potholes in it. So we have a well-thought-out plan for roads in this country. And we believe that if we're able to get a handle on the roads, the amount of contribution it will do to the growth of our GDP is going to be very significant.
Where does local contractors come in? Because many of them have not been paid, and immediately they would wish that they have some resource to be able to support this initiative.
Unfortunately, this government, the Nanado administration, has been very cruel to local contractors. It's destroyed a lot of their businesses. Most of them have had their equipments repossessed. Most of them, the banks are running after them, taking back the collateral that they used to secure loans to do government jobs. And they have done the jobs legitimately. Certificates have been signed by the ministers certifying that they've done the jobs, and the certificates are there. This government came, suspended all contracts, Many of them, certificates since 2016, they have refused to pay them. Their creditors are following them. Fuel station owners are chasing them all over the place. Cement distributors are chasing them all over the place. Their employees have been laid off, have no means of sustenance. This government has been the worst, Nanado's administration has been the worst thing that happened to Ghana's construction industry. The construction industry under my administration was growing phenomenally. It was one of the main drivers of GDP growth. Today, the construction industry is hardly registering any growth because we've destroyed all our local companies. And the unfortunate thing is that while he's refusing to pay the local contractors, he's paying the foreign contractors, you know. All the foreign contractors, the Chinese and others that, you know, we have contracts with, I've gone around the country. They continued working. Even after Nanado came into office, they didn't stop them from working. And when they bring their certificates, they pay them. And yet when our own Ghanaian business people who have invested, you know, their monies to build their, you know, companies to standards where they can do the same jobs as their foreign contractors, you just come and kill them because of political, parochial reasons. And, you know, we didn't pick and choose who should be a contractor. There are contractors who you can say are inclined towards the MPP or to whatever party, but we didn't have any political lenses when we were giving government contract. It was based on your capacity and your efficiency. By the time I left office, there were at least 20 Ghanaian construction companies that had even more equipment than foreign companies and could do even a better job than foreign companies. And so I told my roads minister and finance minister that any project that we're paying with our own money, GOG, give the preference to local contractors. And that's how come all these big local construction companies have surfaced. But unfortunately, most of them have been decimated by 4 years of Nanado's administration.
Now, $10 billion big push project. How are you going to fund it? Because it keeps coming up.
Well, we've structured the financial engineering for it. And we're going to do it without putting it on the public debt. That has been well thought through. Economists and other financial wizards have structured how we're going to do it. We're going to use a collateral system to do it so that, I mean, Nanado has borrowed so much, 140 billion in 4 years. Sometimes I think about it and wonder and just imagine what I would have done with 140 billion. I borrowed 56 billion, and I mean, the evidence is there for all to see. If I had 140 billion in 4 years, this country would be at the next level. But be that as it may, our debt to GDP, you know, has gone up. Luckily, we rebased the economy, and so you do not see the impact. But, I mean, if you look at it, by the time Nanado leaves office, our debt to GDP should be going somewhere close to 80%. Debt distress is something facing us. The World Bank, the IMF have all been ringing the bell that we're getting close to where we suffer debt distress and in danger of becoming a HIPC country again. And so you cannot, any new government that comes cannot just continue borrowing incessantly. And so we cannot put that 10 billion big push on the public debt. But we've done it before. We did the new Temaport expansion without putting it on the public debt. Terminal 3, we did it without putting it on the public debt, you know. And so we know how to engineer these things, and we'll be able to raise that money.
I've been speaking to former President John Dramani Mahama, NDC's 2020 candidate. He's just wrapping up his tour of the Bono region, and we are having a conversation on his assessment and some of the policies promised in the NDC's 2020 manifesto. At this stage, I want us to also look at the Ghanaian workers generally. Yesterday, when we were going around, the General Secretary, Johnson Asedun Ketia, who seems to be the icon in this particular region, I'm talking about Bono region, Bono East and Ahafo. It seems wherever he goes, the people are yearning to listen to him. But yesterday, he spoke about an issue involving the security agencies, and that was Cap 30. I remember it has become a subject. Just a few months ago, there were rumors that this current administration wanted to take the police, the immigration, and other security agencies off the Cap 30 except the military. I've heard them come out with a statement that, oh, they are not taking them off. Johnson Asedun Ketia yesterday spoke to the issue. I want us to listen to him, and then I'll come to you for a commitment from you so that the policemen, the immigration service, and other people listening to you can have your view on that.
President Mahama say, "Ya mama sonte, say ya banya ya de bano, ya papa num police for mo chafa wom, mo chafa wom ne say, si ebu oman mu enkonta, yenim say." Ansana yabenya police for dodo a wo mutimi ehwe yeso eye ya juma a frustration bia emamu no ye hia police for additionally empem aduasa mu a asase e fa wo mo na yade ka police adwuma no ho ansana wo mo atimi aya adwuma no na obia adwuma no bia so ne so adwuma no emro wo mo so na sentra yanye no ene se aban entwa nani enhwe police adwuma no yie police afri se ahihye no wo Gold Coast ebesi nei ye nhyeda enye training a ebetwe wo mo adwene akogina kwan a democracy mu ye fa so eye police adwuma enti ama police ni bia hunu se ne master ene abai ena natamfo ene timamufo nananom abrochire yanya no sa abrochire police ni bia nadamfo ene timamufo no wo mu no obo wo mu ho ban afri abai nsisi a obesisi citizens no ho eno nti ya yese se yeba bie mu a yeba hwe se yebeti yani ahwe police adwuma no yie police adwuma nkoso a vigilante ene sorry police adwuma enkoso a obi ewia wade a na oso wabo no ateka eno nti se asundwe beba oman mu a esese ye bambo no ye hwe no yie na ansana police fo so wo mo benya abutoya mu aye wo mo adwuma yie no akade a ese wo mo de ye adwuma no ya sisi se ya de saa akade no ebema wo mo ye ntimi mfa police fo dodo efri se ba bia wo mo betena eni ho ba bia de wo mo be ko training eni ho enti ya se ya ba region bia mu besisi police fo adai wo mo offices eni ba bia wo betena ye adwuma na ya ma wo mo ntetiye wo mo akatua no nso police ni ene so no akura wo police adwuma num na okaso okosku akosua de a okosua de ba ti abeto na adwuma mu ni promote no ya ti owie akwa ne kosua de na chese ya nya no hwe teacher ni kosua ba ni promote no obi fufuro bia kosua ba ni promote no enti papa police nom ya pese maso eba ha se amamu a eba no police fo dodo a ewo maimu a wo mo adi wo musika akwa akosua de no ye be ma amnesty ama obia nya ni promotion everywhere kwanya ya be hihye na sade teacher fo enya scholarship kosua de no police fo so ya be ye sa hihye no e de ama wo mo na wo mo so anya kwai akwa akosua de babia wo mo beda ye bebo homode atwa ye ni akoho na no so yaye ne ye sa ne manu nyina wi a.
So that was Johnson Asedun Ketia, and in that message he talked about Cap 30. Because you are going to speak to it, I wanted to take your word. What is your promise to the other security agencies who are concerned, especially with this Cap 30?
What happened is, according to reports, the MPP administration went to cabinet and took a decision to take the police service and other security agencies off Cap 30 and put them on the Senate pension scheme. Of course, once the rumors went out and the reports went out, there was a bit of agitation within the services. And so they came out and said, oh, they had no intention of doing that. But I thought that they'll reassure the services by making it a definite promise in their manifesto. I'm not sure that they've done it, but put it in the manifesto that they will maintain those services on Cap 30. We have done that. And so in our in our manifesto is there. It says maintain captivity pension scheme for the security services. So it's in our manifesto. So it's definitely a promise that we can be held to. And so that's the difference. And so there are many other things that we are looking at. Clear the backlog of promotions and ensure timely promotion based on merits and transparency. Right now, you know that they are recruiting into the police service, no advertisement.
Yes, we've heard those rumors.
Yeah, they just pick and choose who they want. Political party, their chairman's children, executives' children, and then they put them in the police. No transparency. They don't do any advert. So if you are a Ghanaian child and your father or your parent is not a member of the MPP, you cannot join the police service. I mean, these are the things that destroy a country's moral fabric. You know, unfortunately, in our time, we used to advertise. We used to send to do the selection. They go to a central place. They do the body check. After that, they select. They go for medicals and all that. It was a more transparent process than it is currently. We also, Asedu was talking about giving an amnesty. What happens is some of the people in the service, they have some free time, and so they enroll in evening classes and all that, and probably the person finished secondary school, but after some years in the service, he enrolls in evening classes and studies and becomes a degree holder, but he's a corporal or another rank, you know. And so normally once you're able to present a certificate that you have a degree, there's supposed to be some adjustment that makes you able to, you know, go for it. But the point is, they do it without the permission of the service. And so there are many people like that who are lance corporals, who are corporals, who are all kinds of things, but are qualified because they've gone to university. And so we're talking about giving an amnesty if they have gone to an accredited institution, and then put a system where we're able to correct that anomaly. And then after that, put in a system where if you want to go and study, you understand, you'll get the right permission. You can even go on leave to go and study and come back, especially when the area you're going to study is of importance to the police service. So those are some of the things that we are looking at. But there are many other things. I mean, construct housing units, barracks for them. The police and some of the other security services, you know, have nowhere to stay. Go to many places and they are in rented premises. And so as part of the big push, we're going to do security service housing for the army, the police, immigration, and the other services. And so we're going to rebuild some of their barracks. Where they have enough land, we'll put in more accommodation there so that we can accommodate them properly.
Okay, now because we are talking about security, I want us to talk about this particular issue which is dear to many Ghanaians. That is the Western Togoland issue. I know that the Volta Regional House of Chiefs have spoken. I've also seen statements issued by the chiefs at Bato area. I am aware that the Vice President tried to speak to the issue yesterday when he was on Asempa FM. The President, I woke up this morning and realized that he has also spoken on a radio station in Kumasi, I think OK FM. But the concern raised by the traditional authority generally is that they suspect something fishy. And the Asogli State, for example, has said they are going to mobilize their warriors to crush these people if they surface again. They have raised questions about how the Regional Security Council and National Security have responded to intel they have given them on this particular issue. I want us to listen to President Akufo-Addo when he spoke on OKFM yesterday, and so that when we come back, we can look at the concerns about this very interesting controversy.
Because institutions are in place. The security agencies are doing their work. They've started already and we'll see results. If I panic, the country panics. I mean, I'd say if I had panicked, but no, I'm saying my so meaning sir, Juma, Nakupo, Mr. Membabiano. Some men so many eyes me him one. Man, you know, so be him. That is not the purpose of leadership. I'm supposed to assure people that our country will work. The Kosovo Volta region, in the time of these handful, there's just a handful of people, these secessionists. We will deal with it. I have no doubt about it. But there's no value for the country if I start making hysterical statements and acting. No, because BBR it's not so much that you can sleep and be complacent or sleep, but at least you can be steady about what is coming. And I trust the security agencies, I trust the armed forces, I trust the police, I trust their leadership, the intelligence agencies. I know they're all working very, very, very hard to make sure that this matter is dealt with as quickly as possible. People reporting to me wherever I am, I'm getting the reports on a daily basis telling me what's going on.
It's how Kakra Friday is matching na sorry BBC see na notwithstanding police and right so my question I say Bianca for say ke uma won say den kakra and ke bi kranka STC no ke one question no
Mr. Bede, but always
by the time I say no Mary.
Yeah, no, because there's always the element of surprise. You can never do anything about it. That's why there are terrorist outrages. How come 9/11? The element of surprise is there at the beginning for all terrorist groups, the element of surprise. But after a time, when the system is working, you're no longer going to be surprised. So this they've done once or twice. Third, fourth, fifth time, it's not going to be so easy.
So you heard Father, that was his response to concerns, especially raised by security analysts about the level of incompetence by the national security system, especially when they had information about the activities of these groups who were going around the country, blocking roads, attacking police posts, raiding armories, running away with guns, and so on. He has spoken 6 clear days after the incident. Now, Mr. President, I have heard and read concerns on social media that if this is not addressed immediately, it can create problems going forward. First of all, how do you react to some of the concerns raised by the president, trying to suggest that they are still on top of issues?
It's clear that this president hasn't taken this matter seriously. He hasn't. I mean, I don't know, the whole government, the security service, it's like they have a very lackadaisical attitude towards the issue of Western Togoland. There's nothing like Western Togoland. Ghana's territorial integrity is a sovereign matter. No inch of this country must be ceded to anybody. Our constitution makes it clear that we must protect the territorial integrity of Ghana. It's one of the most serious things that the constitution deals with. And that's why when I was president and we had that maritime boundary issue, I did not sleep over it. I didn't want 1 inch of our maritime boundary to be ceded to another country. And so we took definite action. And you could see that there was seriousness in what we did. This Western Togoland thing, I mean, either our security services are so inept or so confused or inefficient, which I don't want to believe. Because I've been commander-in-chief before, and I've worked with these same security services, and I know that intelligence is very key and that they are good at gathering intelligence. This Homeland Study thing was there when I was president. And yet we had people who infiltrated them, and we knew at every stage, you know, what they were up to. But they were doing seminars and press conferences and things, you know. Now they are becoming a bit more, you know, bold. And the president must be taking bold action. You know, we saw some of the videos. I saw one video where there were soldiers escorting a car. There was a car in the middle. And these boys holding the flag were right in front of them. And I said, but why are they escorting this vehicle instead of arresting these guys holding the flag? Because if you arrest them, then you're going to be able to get some more intel on what their operations are. It looks like the whole government is not serious about this. The president himself is not serious about it. No senior person has gone to the area anyway since this thing happened. The Minister of National Security, when this thing was very topical and had become an issue, he should have gone to the area to boost the morale of the security services there. Instead, he was in Kumasi with the president, you know, commissioning a compost plant. What does Minister of National Security have to be in Kumasi with the president for? On a compost plant, instead of going where people are trying to see the part of your territory. There's nothing more serious than trying to break up part of a country. And that's what I'm saying. They are not taking this seriously.
You have been on that seat before as president.
Yes.
It's on record that the Attorney General decided to discontinue the case involving the first group of people they arrested. If you were president today, how would you have handled this issue differently with reference to how some people were arrested?
Eric, they didn't even explain to us why they decided to discontinue the case. There might be reason, but they never explained to us why they decided to discontinue. This came after reports that people in military uniform were seen training and they had hoisted a flag and all that kind of thing. Those arrests took place after that. So our assumption would be that these are some of the people who were seen training and all that. And they were brought to Accra, they were interrogated, they were put before court. And then all of a sudden, the government decides we're not interested in prosecuting them, releases them back into the system. And today, when they get bolder, then you say, oh, we're on top of it. I'm president, I should not panic. If I panic, the country will panic. Who says it's not about panic? It's about taking an issue seriously. Nobody says panic. Nobody's trying to panic you. But you must hold your people accountable. Make sure that, these embarrassing things are not happening again. They come and put sand all over the place. They put Western Togoland flags and things. That's an insult to your sovereignty. And the point even is, it's misguided because Sogakope, North Tongu and things were never part of Transvolta Togoland. All those places, Dwapong was never part of Transvolta Togoland. And so there's not even any issue about that, And so to let a group like this embarrass you, this is an embarrassment. It's been reported in the international media. I was reading it in a French journal, about a secessionist movement, and all that. And it's embarrassing if we're not able to get on top of this. I think that the president must set up, and he must make sure that his national security apparatus is working properly. They must pick intelligence and act before these people, do anything else.
Before we leave this subject, that's your stronghold, Volta region. And the conversation in town is that it could be stage managed, it could be used as a decoy to deploy more people to the area to intimidate the indigents. Now, because that is one of your strongholds, what direct message or assurance are you giving the people there, including the chiefs, at least to make them aware that, look, beyond the promise the president is making, you as a potential president of this country is equally following and will ensure that the people can freely go out and vote on election day?
The attitude of the government is what is fueling those rumors. Because the impunity with which these people are doing this thing, if the government was really serious, I don't think that they'll be able to have a field day like they're having. And so the rumor around is that this is a dress rehearsal. They will do a few more of these attacks and all that. And that the real thing is for election day. Election day, they will bring these Western Togolanders that the government controls to come and disrupt, things in the Volta region, and they'll blame it on secessionists. That's the rumor going around. And if the president is listening, I'm telling him that's the rumor going around because he's not showing any seriousness with the Western Togoland issue. It didn't start now. When they were training in military fatigues and all that, this is the first time the president is talking about this secessionist issue. Something that is so fundamental to your being president, because as president, you're the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And the armed forces are responsible for maintaining the territorial integrity of Ghana. And so you are directly responsible for the territorial integrity of Ghana. This whole Western Togoland thing has been going on and on from all that time. This is the first time the president is making any comment about it. And we're not seeing any seriousness, with his security services in terms of intelligence gathering, in terms of preemptive, action to stop them from doing this. How could they block key points, into your country? The Sogakope blockade, that is the Trans-West African route. And so can you imagine that a main international route, these bandits go and block it, whoever they are, whether they are managed by national security or they are really secessionists, they should not be able to do that. And the reaction, they started at dawn. The government's reaction took place only much later in the morning. you know, and so for several hours they had blocked the roads, and you couldn't see that the government was responding fast enough. You must have a rapid reaction to things like this. We set up an emergency command center at the National Security, where these you know, informations are supposed to be coming, and you must be telling the relevant security service how to move quickly and respond. I don't know what they're doing with that emergency command center, you know, but it's an embarrassment to this government.
Well, so I've been speaking to former President John Dramani Mahama, and the conversation is now drifting to one or two key national issues. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. We'll be taking a short break. I've received lots of text messages. I'll be reading them, and before we take leave of, he takes leave of us, we'd also ask him to tell us his message for Ghanaians, as we do all the time. So after this break, I'll read your text messages.
The average human body.
This one. Which I'm using this one. Yeah, you can use that one. Okay.
We're able to say that America is taking from Ghana simply because of the infrastructure and the good roads, the good hospitals, good schools and all that. And so if the amount where we're going to have which cable? Like those in America. I think it's a very good thing. I know it's going to create jobs, it's going to open up the economy and all that. So it's a very good thing. I feel very excited about that.
Sa kwan wi aye wo so yi kotoba bi spinters ase na rough road obi aso nim say rough road yentimi ntina nchen ye business ben dis buy no wabeka kwan yi kota menim na ndc ye kwan we nti oye wi no manya akwanya a medi table abesi ho a meye mo ba mani.
Manage sempa esense mimpo no mbae esumanye gide won ni mu dada ana mimpo no vision e koso ne de won man ni mu no isisanye JMA kasa o man mu isisanye ni dede e koso no obi ai ready say obeba na san njuma ensamle de hia pa say me say ye kita application ye de chuma ende njuma ni won tina koye say wonni mo bi mpo en fu adwuma enne ye na e de en hwa security mu ebi mu ye njuma enkase njuma no eye njuma de na nso akatua mpo na ye wo mu no ni na ye yam say oba no bebe bi njuma obligated job mpo e de amanya na eye ni je something youth ni de ye na na kan say susu a ya nkase ye advice ye ho ye group say oba pa ye na e beto santia kwakoto abade amano
Ita mo be me fu jo man be neva ashindo wala katan ya doro jira be amagare lifia magare mate yisku kai ka be atuma be otaba awra na ko mo bo education o be education mo la ha ba magare te yimu dey de education ha school yo e ga school ko maliu dan problème ko do ha ata no beta no e ke be education ta ma waiting time e ma kadimi fofo ye va ha agbona wa gana mi ka ba e me otomo guan to so am ta believe pa
opo me say yeah entrepreneurs no what boy in a way like all my apprentices na yeah train no oh yeah good but me time mission at the palm no easy and move on so this current youths will be in time pay this kind of trade no mission and it's a balance of boy or more in these times now. I think that the youth will go in to learn.
Before the previous administration exited office, on this particular campus, the Regional Maritime University, a vocational center was built, was to help students come up with their techniques when it comes to welding and all that. Because I quite remember the former president came to the school and then spoke about the fact that on the rig one time they needed welders to work there, and then it was very alarming that they didn't really have professional welders in Ghana. So based on that fact, that facility was set up. But since the government left office, nothing much had come out of it. So I think with the job creation, giving students the opportunity to have free vocational education after school, they would be able to come out and then set up some jobs for themselves.
When a criminal or an armed robber breaks into your home, he does not hail a Yezu or Kukudu. At that point in time, that criminal or that armed robber is thinking about his stomach. So I believe that a visionary leader like this, that is bringing policies, that is actually going to give some livelihood to the youth, I think will go a long way to grant us some safety within the community.
Welcome back. This is TVXYZ. We are also live on Wizard TV on Facebook and YouTube. I want to read a few text messages. We've done almost 1.5 hours already, but let me just spend some time with text messages. Good morning to you, Mr. Eric, and to the incoming First Gentleman of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. With a campaign strategy adapted this year election, inshallah, we are winning. From Alale Osman inside Techiman. This text message says, good morning, Eric. Please ask His Excellency what he will do to the many poor roads that are yet to be fixed in the northern region in his next government. I think he's answered that. Now, good morning. This one is coming from Nyame Asamankase. It says, good morning, visionary John Dramani Mahama. It goes on to say that the automatic salary incremental jump for teachers you introduce is no more under His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo government. Again, the Akufo-Addo government free SHS has denied many GHS graduates access to SHS in the defiance of provisions of the Constitution. I'm sure he was making reference to private schools which cannot get many of these schools admitted. This one says there are some fake papers in ink that use your stronghold. Well, it looks like this is not part of the messages I'm expecting. Good morning, Comrade Eric. Tell John Mahama that we love him and we pray that he wins this year's elections. It's from Rama to Inima, Gatson branch. That is what the message has just told us. Good morning, bro Eric. I wish John Mahama and all the best as he tours the Ahafo region. We will do our part by voting massively from him. This one is Sir Max in Kumasi. Two more before I come to His Excellency. Please, my question for JM is, why does he want to build mortuary at Zongo communities while Muslims are buried immediately after death? And the last one says, good morning, please, Seidu, following you from Wa, greet my lovely father for me. We pray that he wins the 2020 elections. Well, there are lots of the messages. I'll try to capture a few more before I end this show. At this stage, I want to give you the opportunity to speak to Ghanaians as we do all the time. What message do you have today?
Well, before that, let me just make a comment on that. It's been taken out of context, you know, and we've tried to explain it, but you know how these things are done. People mislead people. What happens is the suggestion came from the Muslim leaders themselves. They said that they were not happy with the way Muslim bodies are handled, you know, in the current state, public mortuaries and all that. Now we have private mortuaries, and so we're saying that we'll facilitate, these mortuaries so that they're able to pay attention to Muslim bodies based on Islamic rights and be able to release them in a faster way than they do currently, because they want to bury within 24 hours or most at the outside within 48 hours. And so we'll make sure that public morgues also handle Muslim bodies in a certain way that facilitates that they keep in accordance with Islamic rights. And then people just go and take it and say, one Zongo, one mortuary. I mean, why would we? Of course, I know that Muslims don't bury quickly. My mother was a Muslim, and as soon as she died, we facilitated the burial. And so why would we go and build mortuaries in Zongos? But I've heard the Vice President himself say it. I mean, this is, just petty politics, and I think people should just discard it. We're not going to build mortuaries in Zongos, but we're going to make sure that mortuaries that exist facilitate Islamic handling of Islamic bodies in a way that matches Islamic burial rights.
Okay. Now, so at this stage, I want to give you the opportunity to speak to Ghanaians.
Thank you, Eric. This morning, my message is for young Ghanaians. The youngest voters in this year's elections were born in the 21st century. And this is a century they want to live in. We must provide them with the conditions that make their 21st century living fulfilling so that they can realize their full potential. Today, there's a huge gap between what they see and what they hope for. It is our moral duty to be bold and to bridge this gap. We need to bring Ghana into the 21st century, and we need to do it now. In our manifesto, the People's Manifesto, we make a pledge that the government that I will lead as president will help 1 million young Ghanaians to gain knowledge and skills in IT, teaching and training them in software development, including for coding and programming. We're calling this 1 Million Coders Program. These young Ghanaians in turn will build our new digital economy. They will generate well-paid jobs for many of us, and they will help change Ghana forever. My brothers and sisters, the future is already here. Young people recognize it and demand it. So it is time for all of us to recognize and to demand it also. The NDC will build a next-generation infrastructure, a next-generation healthcare system, a next-generation education system, and a next-generation agricultural system. We will double the fiscal infrastructure with digital infrastructure. It is our moral duty towards the young generation and towards our beloved country, Ghana. And so if you are young and dare to hope, because the NDC is here to support your dreams and to make those dreams come true. If you are old, you can also dare to hope for your children and grandchildren, but also for yourself. Dare to hope that we will create the conditions for making a change in our country, because changing Ghana into an advanced nation as soon as possible will benefit all of us, young or old. And so join me in bringing Ghana into the 21st century.
So thank you very much. That was the message from the former president. As I promised, I'll read a few more text messages. Aggrieved customers of the defunct management companies will vote massively for JDM come December 12, 2020. We are over 100,000, and the message goes on. It says from Hood from Wa. This message says, good morning, Mr. Eric. I'm watching you from Encounter with former President JDM. Please, I have a plea. I have to tell him that we understand his concerns, but he must speak like a man, because the MPP cannot be trusted. He should not try to be Mr. Nice Man, because he needs to be very strong and send them the right message. This one says, my name is Mr. Anthony Ofori Osu. Why the NDC did not stop sending cases to court? Because the court is in favor of is not in favor of the NDC. And so the NDC should not bother to send cases to court. They should think of how to win the elections at the polling station. This one says, good morning, Mr. President. I hope you are good. Please, I like you so much because you are my birthday partner, and I can't read the rest. It just praises on you. My name is Juliet Tenu. The last one here says, Hello, Mr. Mahama. I am a fan of you way back in high school, but in 2016 I was lured by NPP to vote for them. But this time I've realized that they can't be trusted, and because you are legalizing Okada, I'll vote for you. Lie. And that is the last message I'll read. So the president will be going to the Ahafo region tomorrow. So for those of you in the Ahafo region, expect that John Mahama and his campaign team will be in your part of the country to continue his tour. Wezo TV, TVXYZ will be following him. Join our live updates on Facebook and YouTube. We'll give you all the highlights on how the people will be receiving him and with the message you'll be sending to the people on the people's manifesto. We are so grateful to the other media platforms that picked this conversation live. We are talking about Power FM in Accra, Class FM in Accra, Accra FM, CTV, Ago TV, Volta 1 TV, and several others I cannot immediately remember. But we are grateful to you. Join us again on Wezo TV anytime the signal pops up and the live updates. I am Ekran Hanyo, and thank you again, Mr. President. I wish you well on your campaign.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one point about the banking sector cleanup. A lot of time we think only about the victims, but we forget about those who are working, the employees who have lost their jobs. A lot of them are in a very bad situation.
Okay.
And that's why we say that when we come into office, we'll restore the indigenous investment in the financial sector so that some of these people who have experience, who are sitting at home, will regain, work within that sector.
I've just received a message and it looks quite interesting. It says, we in the Bono region are so grateful that you visited us. We want you to wave at us and tell us your message before you leave.
Oh, okay. Can you see my hand?
That's all right.
Okay. Well, the people of Bono are my in-laws. My wife comes from this region.
Oh, okay. So I understand now.
Yes. So they are my in-laws. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I wish them well. My wife is great. I'm happy I married a Bono woman. She's looking after me well, as you can see. And thank you very much.
Thank you. That's how we end the show.
You've been gone, it's an empty home. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome home. You've been kept down for much too long. Stand up, please, and say I am free. Don't forget you are welcome home, welcome home. Come with me on this happy trip back to the promised land. All will be happy and gay. Come with me on this happy trip back